Greetings, everybody, friends, family, and foes. Welcome back to Asafo Academic. For this video, I seen a teachable moment with just Pearly things doubling down on her slavery comments, simping to Nick Fuentes. Now, this video is about grifting things, but it's also a teachable moment in terms of Thomas Sowell, because if you don't know, I have done videos on Thomas Sowell. In my video about Kevin Samuels, I spoke about Thomas Sowell as well too, because Thomas Sowell is an idol to Kevin Samuels, which a lot of people want to ignore or don't know about, I should say. But it relates to Pearly things because I've done several videos, more than a few for sure, in terms of Thomas Sowell's ideology. So when it comes to grifting things, it's a perfect opportunity now that she has doubled down on her comments to show how flimsy and uncredible this information really is. Now that grifting things has put herself in the forefront as being someone to carry the torch for Thomas Sowell, not realizing the dummy mission she's going on. But anyways, this will be a perfect opportunity with this interview. I don't know about much about the H3 podcast and Ethan Klein. I just know that they have almost double the amount of subs that Grifting Things has. So it gives Grifting Things an incentive to do this interview, even though she had an idea that it was going to be like a debate, because, of course, Grifting Things is more right-leaning politics, and Ethan Klein, from what I've seen throughout the interview, is more left-leaning. So there's going to be this idea that this was going to be a debate. I'm not going to play the entire debate. I'm just going to play relevant parts. But when we get to the part that I'm going to look over, he already had her for 2 hours, and he did a pretty good job in terms of keeping her engaged, making sure she makes definitive statements, and then getting her to walk back at least partially on some of those statements by testing her ideology, testing her research, her knowledge, which she doesn't have much of. She had somebody feeding her information during the debate. So Ethan really exposed how she doesn't do research. She just regurgitates things. But until this point of the debate, all pretty much been about dating, relationships, politics, my body, my choice sort of thing. So now we're gonna get into the juicy stuff. And I'm gonna show how Ethan really plays her into this transition, because the entire time it's just been relationships, dating, man-woman dynamic. But now he saved the best part for last.
But usually there is a point for most men where
Sure,
it's
and
like
women. I mean, and women. I don't think women want to
I
date someone who's like slept
I
with.
just don't think it's equal.
It's not equal because
Yeah.
Drake.
No, not because of Drake.
Because we should remove like celebrity and outside kind of influences from this because
Mhm.
that obviously creates um, unusual, yeah, fringe cases, which we don't like.
Oh,
Don't miss out on our store
oh,
closing sale. Cherish Pearls is going out of business.
Like we don't like this because
Mhm.
that obviously creates unusual, yeah, fringe cases, which we don't like. We don't like to talk about those.
So then what about the abortion one
I was just
earlier?
parodying you. I was
I
just
thought you
kidding.
liked.
No,
I
I was just
thought
kidding.
yeah. So he just gives off a little joke before he transitions to sort of lighten the mood a little bit. In terms of the fringe case, he's referring to before when grifting things made a whole diatribe about using fringe cases. We're gonna put a pin on that, and we're gonna come back to that later. But Ethan does a very good job of sort of cooling down the temperature before moving into the big topic.
I was just joking. Yeah. All right, one last thing. I see that we're getting exhausted here. It's fine.
Mhm.
Drake saying, "I want a girl with a future and a past." That's a lyric of his. He wants an experienced girl. Even Drake's talking about it in his damn lyrics.
You see, so he gives off a little joke as well too. Is sort of moved on to the next topic, but then kind of jumps back with a
Drake
joke.
doesn't want a virgin.
You just said no celebrities. That's crazy how you just threw that out the window now.
Yeah, you don't want to talk about it. Drake wants a girl with a future and a past.
Oh, stop. His simp pandering music to women. He makes money off of that. Women are like, come on.
Drake. All right, let's talk about one last
Seems
thing.
like a creepy, probably. Yeah.
And I do thank you for being here. You know, it's combative, but I think it's a good conversation. I wanted to ask you about one last thing.
So he says one last thing. Now this gives grifting things sort of a sign of relief because it was not a good interview or debate on her side at all, completely. But now after the little joke and now saying this is the last thing, this is probably, I would say she gets a little bit more comfortable and then he strikes.
This comment I thought was interesting, and tell me what you think about it.
This sounds similar to the slavery stuff too, because that's literally the founder of, or the guy who made Roots said, I wanted a myth for my people to live by. So they often, but that's what they do is they embellish, and I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible, it was, right? But they want to make it like more horrible so that they can control people.
So he got the entire quote in front of Nick Fuentes, just played the whole thing for her.
In what way was slavery made to seem more horrible than it was?
We were talking about, I don't really want to go into this too much because we're kind of past this, but I was quoting a Thomas Sowell book.
Mm-hmm.
So there we go. We got the Thomas Sowell. Let's go.
So
okay.
Who's that?
Yeah, so Thomas Sowell is an author who talks about the history of slavery.
So what she tried to do there, she tried to lay everything at Thomas Sowell's feet, as if it's what she's trying to do is make it seem like it's not her own thoughts. Oh, it's like it wasn't my thoughts, it was Thomas Sowell's thoughts.
So
Thomas Sowell. So do you agree with that premise that slavery was embellished or no?
See, perfect question to push forward.
I think that there are parts that are under embellished and there are parts that are over embellished. I think.
Okay, so you heard that. She said she thinks that there are parts that are under embellished and over embellished. Let me play that
Depends what we're
again.
talking. That there are parts that are under embellished and there are parts that are over embellished. I think it just depends what we're
That's
talking
so interesting.
So she's so she doesn't even realize that under embellished is not even it's an oxymoron. Something can't be under embellished. The word embellished means to be over the top. So to say under embellished, it just goes to show how uneducated she really is. But she said over embellished.
I've got to know what was over embellished about slavery. Just like one example, I'm dying to know.
Yeah, and the way that Ethan is acting, because I do believe he is putting on a little bit of acting too. But at the same time, Pearly thinks is going to tolerate it because this is a bigger platform that she has. I can't remember how many people were watching, but it was definitely tens of thousands watching during the live.
Yeah, I just rather, I mean, I was talking about a book that I read, and I think to understand the context, you have to read the book.
So she's saying you have to read the entire book to understand the context. But if she had read the book and she is spewing out the talking points from the book, then she should be able to give examples from the book if she truly absorbed the book. That's what an intellectual would do. But because she hasn't absorbed the book, or for whatever reason, she can't remember anything and she can't disseminate the knowledge on the spot. So she says, oh, you have to read the book during a debate. Or something which she agrees with.
Said some parts were embellished, some parts were under embellished.
To understand the context, you'd have to read the book.
You just said some parts were embellished, some parts were embellished.
You see, this was a good second push as well too. He's not letting up.
I just
Are you retracting that?
I'd really just rather not.
Okay. Dude, no, but slavery being embellished, that's so interesting. I don't know how you embellish it.
There are certain facts that we're not allowed to talk about.
Like what? I would love to. We're doing the taboo. We're mixing it up. It's red pill, baby. Let's see the world as it is.
Taboo topics.
I genuinely want to know how it's embellished.
Yeah.
Oh my, the setup is just so perfect and she can't even see it.
What can't we talk about? Come on.
I mean, I could show you the video I was quoting, but it's just, I'd rather not get into this, so.
Now she's mentioned in a video because there's a video of Thomas Sowell excerpts all over the internet, so I'm sure she's talking about one of those, but she's still trying to run away.
Sounds like a blue pill attitude to me.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping this was like a good faith interview.
Wait, what's that?
So now she's just gone full Karen mode, and we have to remember that she said she's in agreement with
Twitter,
the Karens.
Stop talking to me. And then I got a call from my boss at RSBN a week later, this guy Joe Seals, and he says, Cassie has been calling me every day for the last 2 weeks, saying that I need to fire you because you're racist and you're an anti-Semite. So not only does she cut off the friendship and blacklist me, but then she starts calling my boss.
She Karen'd you, huh?
Yeah, for real.
Yeah. Was she white?
Yeah.
Yeah, we are the best Karens.
Yeah,
we do Karen it better than anyone else.
That's true. Yeah, that's not sure that's like something to be proud of. It kind of is though. Actually, I'm actually in a way kind of like pro Karen.
Karens are needed. I'm not saying sometimes we're in the wrong, but I honestly think like Karens are the ones that do the shit that no one else wants to do. Now, you might have been on the negative end of the Karen stick, right? But they all probably wanted you fired or wanted you blacklisted, right? Karen's just the one that did it.
Yeah, that's right.
So from my point of view, if the guy next door is having this loud party and I'm the one that goes and complains, everyone wanted it to stop.
That's right.
I'm pro Karen.
The Karens in that same Nick Fuentes interview, but she's gone full Karen, and now she's saying it's a bad faith interview after the slavery. So she's already done it for 2 hours. She didn't think it was bad faith until after the slavery comments.
Bad faith. I'm literally showing you clips.
Yeah. I was kind of hoping this was like a good faith interview.
Wait, what's bad faith? I'm literally showing you clips of you saying stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Wait, hold on. I'm sorry. What about this interview has been bad faith?
I just think you're kind of trying to push an agenda, and you're not. Yeah, I just think you're trying to push.
That's a clip of you saying that. You can disavow it. That'd be super easy to say I was wrong.
From a full interview where I'm quoting somebody. Like if you watch the full interview, I am quoting somebody.
So now she keeps going back to the I'm not the primary source. Thomas Sowell is the primary source. What she does not understand is that we don't care who the primary source is. We want to know what the primary source said because you are the one that is hailing this person, reading the books. So you should have some idea the examples of how enslavement was embellished. But as I said, she's not that smart, but we'll continue.
And now you're trying to pin me down about a topic that I don't dive into.
Hold on.
So if you watch the full interview, I am quoting somebody. And now you're trying to pin me down about a topic that I don't dive into.
Hold on.
But she decided to dive into the topic in front of a known white supremacist.
So it's like, that's not the point of my channel.
Okay,
the point of my channel isn't.
I know, but you said it. How is that bad faith? Hold on, let me see.
Because I was talking about how the founder of Thomas Sowell talks about how the guy that made Roots talked about how it was a myth for his people to live by. Okay. That's what the guy who made Roots said, Alex Haley.
Okay.
So, and I can't even talk about that on a podcast without being canceled by the internet.
Yeah, but mythology, you know, myth doesn't necessarily mean it's a lie, right? Just because mythology is like a culture,
right, but I'm
history.
saying that doesn't mean the way it's depicted in the movie was how it actually happened. And that's what he was talking about on the book. But again, I was quoting the book, and you're trying to was how it actually happened. And that's what he was talking about on the book. But again, I was quoting a book, and you're trying to pin me down on quoting a book.
Let me watch this again and see if I'm doing that.
Stuff too, because that's.
So Ethan is so smooth. He's just gonna play it again because she's trying to use her words to spin a narrative that's not happening. So he has to literally play her own words for her again.
That's literally the founder of, or the guy who made Roots said I wanted a myth for my people to live by. Yeah. So they often, but that's what they do. Is they embellish.
So then you say, but here's what they do.
And I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible.
I'm not trying to say it wasn't horrible.
Right, but they want to make it more horrible.
But they want to make it more horrible.
That they can control people.
So that they can control people.
Right, but
Nick Fuentes agrees.
But wait.
Very smooth, very smooth. So he had to play it a second time because she's trying to make it seem something is happening, which is not happening. She said it because she agrees with it. We need the context on why she agrees with it. She doesn't want to get into it. That's what's going on. But she pulled the Karen card.
Oh my gosh,
Horrible.
that they can control people.
So that they can control people.
Right, but
Nick Fuentes agrees,
But
by the way.
wait, oh my gosh. 5 minutes before, I say Sowell talks about this in his book. So I'm communicating in the interview that I'm
No.
quoting an author.
You're not being honest.
Like-
you say they do this to. Okay, so you disavow. Just disavow it then. That's easy. Just say I don't think slavery was embellished. I mean, that's super easy. That's like a layup.
Now, at this point, he's just playing in her face. He's saying this question is a layup. So you see, she doesn't want to disagree with the statement. Fundamentally, she agrees with the statement, so she can't disavow it.
Do you agree? You know what I mean? It's like just say you don't think slavery. I mean, that's super easy. That's like a layup.
It's a layup.
Do you agree? You know what I mean? It's like just say you don't think slavery was embellished.
I think there are certain facts that you're not allowed to talk about. I don't really want to talk about it today.
But that roots was what is a myth?
Again, there are certain facts you're not allowed to talk about, and I don't really feel like getting into it today.
Thomas Sowell compared Barack Obama to Adolf Hitler. Do you like that analogy?
Now, that's a very good curveball question because it really has nothing to do with the enslavement comments, but at the same time, too, it goes to show how unhinged Thomas Sowell is.
That's the author you're quoting.
Hmm.
Do you think that's a fair analogy?
That's a quite one-sided way to write his whole work, but he wrote like 100 books.
Oh, I'm just asking you, do you agree with that statement? Barack Obama is comparable to Adolf Hitler.
No.
Okay. See, it's not hard. It's not hard. That's awesome. That's easy to do. You also said George Washington.
Oh man, this guy had the round of applause. Oh my goodness.
Washington was viewed from his slaves like awesome. That's easy to do. You also said George Washington was viewed from his slaves like a father. I guess that's part of what the part of what the myth, I guess, is that not all slave owners were evil. Some were father figures like George Washington.
So now she's completely shut down. She doesn't want to engage, but she doesn't have the sense to just leave because she's on a bigger platform. Let's go.
Did you say that?
I don't remember. I think like if someone's a great
Now, Ethan is so smooth and so quick with it because he knew exactly what was going to happen. He literally played it seconds after he got the answer he was looking for. So we're going to run that back. We're going to run that all the way back.
Powerful man in history.
Did you say that? All slave owners. That's part of what the. You also said George Washington was viewed from his slaves like a father. I guess that's part of what the part of what the myth, I guess, is that not all slave owners were evil. Some were father figures like George Washington. Did you say that?
I don't remember. I think like if someone's a great.
So literally right after she says, I don't remember, because he knew what she was going to say, he pulled it up.
And powerful man in history to the point like they're talking about him hundreds of years later. He didn't have any kids, but.
Did he own slaves?
What?
Did he own slaves? George Washington?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, no romance to me. I'm just saying.
No, it's actually interesting. He had a different, like he inherited his slaves and it wasn't as simple as he could have just like let them go because the debt that's incurred on them, like you can't just release them. And so his slaves actually, like he had a really good relationship with them and they considered him like a dad.
We have to go back.
And so his slaves actually like.
I want everyone to take note in the video that Ethan is using. Okay, so the bar thing's not gonna go away, but the video is called Can Pearl Tell the Truth?
Why the fuck you lying? Why you always lying?
Right, so Ethan was testing her. This video is from Sarah Garvey. We're gonna get into Sarah Garvey in a second, but Ethan was literally testing her to see if Pearl can tell the truth. Pearl can't tell the truth. She knows exactly what she said. This was her show, but she wants to act like she doesn't know what she said. So, I mean, she didn't say she didn't know. She said she doesn't remember. So I guess she understands plausible deniability. But let's go.
And it wasn't as simple as he could have just like let them go because the debt that's incurred on them, like you can't just release them. And so his slaves actually like he had a really good relationship with them, and they considered him like a dad.
What's your source for that?
That was from a Thomas Sowell book.
Thomas Sowell again. You see, again.
Thomas Sowell. So he's your guy. Thomas Sowell's the man. Thomas Sowell wrote a column about supporting segregation in public schools. George Washington.
You want me to apologize? Like, you want me to talk about every single one of this man's opinions?
No.
Well, that's not the point, but you herald this man around. You keep his name in your mouth constantly, showing. There's videos of her showing Thomas Sowell excerpts to her friend. So it's like she's lying when she's not coming all the way forth about her support for Thomas Sowell. She doesn't realize the dummy mission that she's on. I mean, she did get a lot of pushback for the enslavement comments. She took down the video, very uncomfortable. She was on trigonometry, and they asked her about it as well too, and she backed out of it. She said, "Oh, I have a video that's gonna address everything." And then when she put out the video, she didn't address anything. So she just wants to move past this, but this is the internet. Everything lasts forever. And now she's mad.
Oh, I just want I just want to know what you think. Do you think racism was embellished? I mean, it's so easy.
One of this man's opinions.
No, I just want I just want to know what you think. Do you think racism was embellished? I mean, it's so easy. I mean, just say no.
I think okay. There was a time where I started to read accounts from actual slaves. So these were like in like and I can't really talk about this. Like even if I talk about this now, they're going to clip it. They're going to say things I didn't say.
We're going to talk about it. We're going to clip it because you believe in bullshit. I mean, that's the real problem. You believe in bullshit. And other people as well too. And this is why I'm doing this video, to show that if you don't do your own research, you don't have your own grounding in history, you're going to end up like just grifting things here, just repeating shit, just repeat shit. And then when people come at you for repeating dumb shit, you don't understand why, because you are uneducated. Let's go.
But it's like, I used to read actual slave accounts, and I was surprised how many didn't say bad things about their owners after they were free.
Right. So this is very easy right here. So she's talking about slave accounts, right? But this is the context. How were enslaved Africans able to talk about their stories? How did they get recorded if they couldn't read and write? So if they couldn't read and write, that means that their slave masters had control of what their enslaved said about them. So they had control of the narrative. Think about it. If enslaved Africans couldn't read and write, how are they able to tell their stories without any interference from the slave masters? Right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's not to say like slavery was a horrible institution, but I can't talk about that fact without getting canceled. I can't say, hey, these slaves had a good relationship with their owners.
Because it's not true. Because it's just not true. It's not true. George Washington was not a father figure to his slaves.
Well, if you look up, like, I think it was Booker
47, let's see, 47 of George Washington's slaves tried to escape. Would you try to escape if you loved your master?
Maybe.
So we're going to fact check this. He said 47, so I plotted it in exactly how it was. 47, see here. 47 slaves escaped from George Washington. I didn't put no capitals, nothing, right? This is the first page. We got History Channel, one of George Washington's enslaved workers, a 22-year-old named Ona Judge, fled from the president's household for a life of freedom in New Hampshire. That's History Channel. Number one. Ona Judge, that one again on Wikipedia. So we have Mount Vernon. It looks like this is where he got it from. At least 47 enslaved people tried to run away from Mount Vernon or other lands belonging to Washington during his lifetime. About 7% of the total population. George Washington's runaway slave, Harry. So we have another one called Harry. So this is one of the 47. enslavement at George Washington's Mount Vernon. Washington demanded a return of escaped slaves. So he demanded the return of escaped slaves. I'm not going to go too deep into all of these, to any of these. This is the National Archives.gov, by the way. One of George Washington's slaves wasn't caught. So here's another source, London Review of Books. Tremendous in his wrath, George Washington, slave owner. Between 1760 and 1799, at least 47 of Washington's slaves ran away. A group of 17, including 3 women, escaped during the War of Independence. So, I mean, we can see here, let's just even go into the PBS source, right? So, of our first 5 presidents, 4 owned enslaved. And it says here the biggest owner among the 4 was George Washington. During his life, during his life, he got 200. And the end of his life, he had 317. Remember, 47 escaped, right? Let's see here. Talks about Harry over here, right? He was a fascinating rebel named Harry, whose life and times have been painstakingly recreated by the historian Cassandra Pybus. And Harry's dogged determination to be free suggests that not all of the slaves found Washington to be the benevolent master whom historians have depicted. Historians, Thomas Sowell is not even an historian, he's an economist, but he's one of these people who depicted George Washington in a benevolent dad light. And now we have just grifting things, grifting away, regurgitating obvious garbage about the true nature of enslavement in the United States.
Maybe that.
Since the dawn of game, a rivalry has divided men. Choose your game face.
They got me for a whole ad.
And daughters of these high-value targets. Place an offer to.
One was wrong. I don't know. This was like a little bit on a podcast months ago. I don't really remember, but and I said I wasn't sure if it was Washington either in that interview at some point. But
George Washington
was bringing up is I'm not even allowed to have this conversation without.
What do you mean not allowed?
That, but I mean, we're giving you the platform.
I got months of backlash for this. I'm now like you guys are kind of trying to do a gotcha moment.
No. I didn't know about the backlash.
I'm not really.
I didn't know about the backlash. I promise I didn't.
I had months.
I just want to know what you think.
Like I had months of people like it's like if I have this conversation, I had months of people calling my employees slaves. Like that's what they call like
that's horrible. Yeah, I disagree. That sucks.
Horrible.
But at the same time,
and like even the guy, and you know this because you watched the video of that guy. The reaction you just like you're acting oblivious.
The video called "Can Pearl Tell the Truth?" Which I guess she's telling the truth now.
So I didn't know that, but you do know that because the reaction you just watched was my former co-host who insinuated that my employees were being colonized.
Oh, I didn't know that. I promise. I just wanted to get your take. Well, people say I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on this. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not like my channel isn't about slavery. That's like a fringe.
I know. I want to know about you.
But I'm asking like, why are you bringing this up when that's not really what my channel is about?
So now she's visibly more and more irritated. I guess she's starting to figure out what's going on now. At this point, she's seen Sarah Garvey, is now starting to put dots together. So maybe she's gonna leave soon.
I can only ask you things about. This is interesting. I want to ask you about it. Why do I can only ask you things in a confined space?
You can, but you understand how that looks to me. It's like you're just trying to pick out every single.
Listen, Pearl. To be fair, to be totally fair, you could just say, "I don't think slavery was embellished."
Oh.
Like I mean, like,
fair. To be totally fair, you could just say, "I don't think slavery was embellished."
Like you were
like
just
that's
talking
super
about,
easy. That's a layup for most people.
Again with the layup. But you see, she's not gonna take it, but because she doesn't want to upset her fan base, because now she understands who her fan base is. Her fan base is a bunch of anti-black, people, whether they're white or black. You have the whites that really hate blacks and enjoy how grifting things is just grifting on black men primarily. And then you have the anti-black people like Mumia Obsidian and others who put on their cape for just grifting things because they don't give a shit about their own image. So it really is what it is. So if she was to go back and say Thomas Sowell was incorrect or it doesn't make sense, she knows she's gonna piss off her fan base.
I was quoting a book. That's the crazy.
Super easy.
I was quoting a book.
A layup for most people.
I was quoting a book. That's the crazy part. I was quoting a book.
And you see, Ethan did a very good job, even in her irritability, managed to keep her to talk even more. But she keeps going back to, am I quoting a book? And Ethan's going to do a good job with the pushback again.
So do you agree with his statement, though?
Do I think overall it was embellished? Some parts, sure.
There it is. Which parts?
Some parts.
No, please tell me which parts. Tell me.
Please tell me which parts. Very good acting, because we want to know. We want to know. Spit it out.
I think that you can't. Some parts, sure.
Spit it out.
Some parts.
No, please tell me which parts. Tell me.
Please.
I think that you can't. I think that certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not all, maybe not most, but I think some did.
And that just.
She said, listen to this again.
And there are certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not.
Parts, tell me.
I think that you can't. I think that certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not all, maybe not most, but I think some did.
And that just.
And there are accounts of them saying that.
It literally laughs in her face.
So some slaves.
Most, but I think some did.
And that just.
And there are accounts of them saying this.
So some slaves had good relationships with their masters. Therefore, slavery was embellished.
You know how this is going to go for me. Like, I don't know why you're doing this. You know I can't have this conversation without them painting in a certain. You know how this is going to go.
So some slaves had good relationships.
Some did.
And that just.
And I think that certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not all, maybe not most, but I think some did.
And
not all. She said maybe not most. We know that's a damn lie. But she said some did. So we're going to run it back because she had a whole debacle about fringe cases before. We're going to run it back here. And she made a whole thing about using fringe cases to have discussions. Let me just play her words. And I'm not going to take her out of context.
Yeah, baby.
You know, that's less than 1%.
Dad rapes his daughter, then she needs the table in any situation.
Yes.
Answers abortion should be off the table in any situation.
Yes.
So if a dad rapes his daughter, then she needs to give birth to that baby.
You know, that's less than 1% of cases. Why do you guys
no.
I know, but
that's important, Pearl.
The most, fringe
because if you're going to have a conversation about difficult things, let's talk about the difficult things. This is why the laws exist. The laws exist to protect that little girl.
I'm saying let's talk about the most common thing.
That's
first.
easy.
And
that's easy.
But I'm saying
let's talk about the most common thing first.
Difficult about this.
But I'm saying we can get to the difficult things later. But it's like, why do you guys bring
Because that's the interesting part. I'm telling you, the law is there to protect on those fringe cases.
I'm saying, why don't we start with the majority of
abortion? Didn't we just do that?
You think, okay.
What do you want to say? You don't agree with abortion. So, like, if a man and women have sex and they're both being irresponsible, then sure, I protect the little girl who's raped product of your position of no abortions are allowed under any circumstance. So if you're willing to take that position, you can't.
I will. Hold on.
You are saying that this girl who's raped by her dad should have the baby.
I just think we spend a lot of time. I will. Hold on. I just think we spend a lot of time arguing about fringe cases that are less than like 0.5%.
Those are the important cases. That's why
I don't think those are as important as the 99.5% of cases. And so sometimes I think it's a bit disingenuous to say, here's this extreme fringe case that happened. And I don't think you don't make a law for the exception.
So that's all we really need to play. Because look what she's saying here, like the flip-flopping is incredible, how she does it within the same episode, right? So she can't even see how her thinking about enslavement is fundamentally flawed, but because Thomas Sowell was able to penetrate her empty head, now she can't let go of this idea. And this is how people take in Thomas Sowell, because again, even though this is about grifting things, this is about the spread of the idea in general, how it gets to conservatives, how it gets to Black people, how it gets to immigrants, how it gets to different people is going to affect them differently. So if they have this skewed view of what enslavement was, And then how they treat black people is gonna affect those ideas is going to affect how they eventually treat black people. So now let's get back, because I just wanted to show like the complete hypocrisy in that. You heard what she said. She said not all. She said probably not most, to kind of give herself an out, right? But she's like, definitely some. So she wants to use the some to try and justify the entire history of enslavement. And like I said, if you don't do your own research, if you're just one of these people doing reaction videos to Thomas Sowell online and don't do any of your own research, don't look at any counter sources or anything like that, if you don't see both sides of the aisle, you'll be lost like this person.
Well, people say, I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on this. That's all.
Yeah, I'm not like, my channel isn't about what channel's about. You can.
You could just say, I don't think slavery was embellished.
Like I mean, you were
like,
just
that's
talking
super
about,
easy. That's a layup for most people.
I was quoting a book. That's the crazy part. I was quoting a book.
So do you agree with his statement, though?
Do I think overall it was embellished? Some parts, sure.
There it is. Which parts?
Some parts.
No, please tell me which parts. Tell me.
Please.
I think that you can't. I think that certain slaves had good relationships with their owners. Not all, maybe not most, but I think some did.
And that just
and there are accounts of them saying this.
So some slaves had good relationships with their masters. Therefore, slavery was embellished.
You know how this is going to go for me. Like, I don't know why you're doing this. You know I can't have this conversation without them painting it a certain way.
Well, just own it then. Just do it. Just say what you want. You know what I mean? Just be red pilled about it. Who is they? I don't know who's they. Just your haters or someone?
The left.
The left.
Do they have parentheses?
Just for the record, I am not part of the left. I denounce the left. I'm nonpartisan. I don't believe in any side. I just believe in the advancement of black people and how politics is going to serve that agenda of advancement. That's it. So, not part of the left, not part of the right. To her surprise, a lot of the people who disagree with her would probably denounce the left as well, too. Just have to say. Because there's this idea from conservatives that anybody that talks about racism, anti-blackness, enslavement is just automatically part of the left. I denounce the left the same way Malcolm X denounced the left. The funny thing is, conservatives will quote Malcolm X denouncing the left and then ignore everything else Malcolm X stood for. But that's another conversation for another day. But I just had to clear the air. I'm not part of the left.
Sees around the day.
Like, I mean, you even came in, like, you researched, like, my family. Like, that's weird.
How's that weird? It's all public. It's stuff you talked about. You literally talked about it. It's called preparation. You clearly done none of it.
I didn't.
Like, you literally do no preparation. And you talk about.
I didn't talk about if my mom was the president of, like, the
Where did we find that?
Find that on their website.
I looked it up. I said, I Googled who are your parents, and it popped right up.
Is that
they're famous? They're relatively famous.
I didn't send a private investigator.
On YouTube. There's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I didn't send a private investigator to your house. I just did a little bit of research.
Public information.
Like, let me bring facts about your parents to this
dude, you knew you were coming to talk to me for weeks.
I've done that.
I know, but I thought we were talking about the issues, not, like, my family.
We didn't talk about your family.
Yeah, I mean, you were even implying earlier.
First of all, it is relevant that your mom is the president when you're talking about.
You didn't know any of the backlash I got.
Well, who cares? You said it. Just own it.
I'm asking. You didn't know any of the backlash I got.
I didn't know about it.
No idea, even though you got that from a video that my ex-co-host made about me.
Right.
See, like, this is dishonest. It's not honest.
But
yeah, this was the first time he messed up a little bit, because he did get caught, because literally the video is called "Can Pro Tell the Truth?" So I'm sure that was he was Sarah Garvey I mentioned before was speaking in relation to the whole issue of Pearly Things making those comments. So if Ethan did watch the entire video, he would know exactly what was going on. But he did play it very good. You know, when she brought up, people were calling her Africans slaves and colonized, he said it was horrible, and he just kept it pushing, because he's not trying to get caught up in the whole Karen narrative that she's trying to push now. He's trying to keep his agenda for the words and the thoughts and ideas that she says and agrees with in front of Nick Fuentes. That is the point.
But what's the problem? You're getting backlash for something that you think.
But I'm saying, so you're like,
you see,
honest. It's not honest.
But what's the problem? You're getting backlash for something that you think.
But I'm saying, so you're like,
you think that.
Think that.
You brought your parents up when you were talking about hiring people, didn't you?
I said, I think it's a bit.
You talk about your parents all the time. You talk about how your dad is rich. You did a tour of his whole barn with the bowling alley and fucking recreational stuff in it. Like, why am I not allowed to talk about
like you even just said that you knew. Like, because you got that clip from an like,
okay, who cares?
We're not here to protect your reputation.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? Let's say I didn't know about it.
The man said we're not here to protect your reputation. We're gonna play that back.
You got that clip from an like,
okay, who cares?
We're not here to protect your reputation.
Yeah, I mean, who cares? Let's say
new. Like, because you got that clip from an like,
okay,
we're not here to protect your reputation.
yeah, I mean, who cares? Let's say I didn't know about it to the extent that it was such an issue for you, but let's just say it was. I mean,
I do have to go though because I have a show coming up. So
okay, let's just end on this note. Slavery was embellished because some masters had good relationships with their masters. Some slaves had good relationships with their masters.
All right.
But don't you see how easy it is to just say, I don't think it was embellished? I don't think it's a secret.
You guys act just like I've preach.
Like, Pearl, just like, wait, Pearl, I don't think it's a secret that some masters had good relationships with their slaves. I don't think that's a secret.
And it wasn't a secret. Malcolm X talked about the house Negro and the field Negro, and talks about how the house Negro doesn't want to see the end of slavery, and the field Negro was praying for the end of slavery, right? But this is the thing. How many people were in the house compared to how many people were in the fields? And that alone will give you the answer that you need. Only a select few were able to go inside the house, and usually they were biracial children who were half black, half white. So that was actually the beginning of colorism, was through the institution of slavery, house Negro and the field Negro. Usually they were biracial. And when you think about that, only a few, they didn't do field work, they did housework, so they were a little bit better, had a little bit more proximity to the massa. So why would they speak badly about their massa? Because they were treated better. So they expressed that they were treated better. But overall, if you look at the few people who are in the house in plantations all over the United States, and how many hundreds of thousands that were in the fields all over the United States, it's clear to see that enslavement was not embellished just because the house Negro said the massa was good. And you look at George Washington, if you add in the fact that he was a president and probably lived better than most of the masses combined, then you can easily see that using the good accounts of George Washington is not a credible way to speak about the overwhelming history, documented history of the reality and condition of enslavement for most Africans on the fields. It's just like, this is really elementary in terms of history. There's far more complex history than enslavement. It pretty much went one way. There wasn't really an over-embellishment. Even though Roots was a fictional movie, it was not fake in terms of the condition of enslavement. Yikes. But this is why I stress education so much. This is why you got to do your own research, and for not just for yourself, for the next generation too, because it's going to be the next generation that's going to be looking at Thomas Sowell clips. Just imagine if they get to a Thomas Sowell clip before they get to an actual historian's clip and get the actual knowledge, and then they're skewed from there. But like I said, it's not just the next generation. It's really anybody who doesn't have a strong base in history.
There's been a whole I really appreciate that some masters had good relationships with their slaves. I don't think that's a secret.
Remember, house Negro and field Negro. Go look it up yourself.
There's been a whole I really appreciate you having me on, but I'm going to go. Thank you.
George,
thank you.
Okay, I appreciate you. Okay. Have a good night.
She hung up.
Whoa.
I just don't understand why you can't.
She was panicking at the end there. Holy shit.
Okay. First of all, I genuinely did not know that it was such a sore point for her. I mean, it is a crazy thing to say.
I mean, she gets backlash all the time for all the things that she says. Why is that one so off limits?
That I don't know.
I mean, I can guess because it's fucking insane.
Very insane. So, I mean, what more can I say, right? Through grifting things, we see how the whole narrative Thomas Sowell tries to put out just falls apart, just melts. It literally just melts because it does not make any sense. It goes against reality. And okay, I'll be fair, she did say some parts, right? Some parts, but again, you got to do your own research. You got to be able to study and analyze history, not based off somebody's word, but through several sources, right? But I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm probably gonna have maybe one or two more Thomas Sowell debunking videos coming up as well too, just to completely wrap up the entirety of his anti-Black sentiments and ideas and other areas it reaches into. I already did a extensive playlist. You could check it out here. I have 4 videos pertaining to the topic and 1 video about a book, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, which completely destroys Thomas Sowell as well too. But I'll be adding this to the series. Look out for more Thomas Sowell videos because it's time that people understood that he is just complete. His ideas are complete and utter garbage. He's not a historian. He's an economist. And I'll leave it at that. So peace out to the next video. Thanks for listening. Hit the like button, subscribe, share. Peace out.